Alright, I got another video for you guys. Alright, so in the last one, we made it where Jet Bob could fly around, and that's good. We also have a world for Jet Bob to go to, and we have a lobby where whenever you press play, you have a join button, and it'll try to join whatever you type here. So if you tried to type a server here, it says it tries to join. It's trying to join that IP address, and if you click host, it'll say the host button was pressed. All right, so right now, these buttons don't do much anything. They just really just type those words here. So we're going to start coding the part for pushing the actual button. So like when you push the join button, we want something to happen. I'm going to leave this part here. Let's start off with the host button. We'll do with the host button first. So we're going to say var net is equal to network multiplayer.enet. A lot of this stuff I'm going to be using the tab button to fill it in, so I don't have to type all of this, but this is just going to create a new network and store it into the word net. And then when we push the host button, that means we're wanting to be the person who hosts the level or the world. So we need to create a server. So we'll go to that network and we will say create server. And this server needs two things. It needs to know what port number are you going to use, and then right there it says what are the maximum number of clients that you can have. And then there's some other stuff there, but I know it just really needs those first two. So I'm going to start off by putting the port down that I already know works. So this one, and then how many players will do 2. All right, so this I need to start putting some notes for myself here. So this creates the server and chooses the max players. And then this one creates the network. Creates the network. Or maybe I should just say creates a new network. Okay, so since you're pushing the host button, you need to create a network, and then you're creating the server. So you need to tell the server what port and how many players can play at the same time. So there's that. Now next, this next line is pretty much just like starting the server. So we'll say get tree dot set network here, and we're setting it to the network. And this is just basically start the network service. This basically sets it up. So this creates it, this configures it, and then this last one actually turns it on, starts it up. Okay, so there's that. This is all you need to create a server. Now, if you're pushing the join button, that means you're the person on the other end and you want to join somebody else's server. So what we're going to do is we're going to, first off, we need to create this server, or we need to create our network, or say that we're trying to start a network connection. So we're going to create a new network and store it into the same thing, so net. And then next, you don't want to create a server, but you want to create a client. So I'll say net.create client. Okay. Now the client also needs two things. So it needs to know what port you're communicating on and what IP address do you want to connect to. The first thing it wants is the IP address. So we know that this one, host IP, that's the IP we're trying to join. So I'll put that in there. And then comma, and we need to communicate on the same port as the person who's hosting it. So I'm going to say the same port they did. So there we go. Okay, so this creates a client and configures it with port and IP. Maybe I should say IP and port, with IP and port. Okay, so there's that. And then, just like we did on the other one, we need to actually start the service. So there we go, start the network service. Boom. All right. What's next? Okay, so we also need to detect when another player has actually connected to the server. So right here we have the join button getting connected to the join. So we have like this function getting connected to the join button, which is right here and right there. We also have the host button pressed connected to the host button right here and there. Now, when somebody joins the server, we need a function to tell us, okay, somebody actually connected to you. What do you do next? So we're going to say function, and Godot has a built-in function, and it's called player underscore connected ID. All right, so these underscores at the beginning of our functions, they are there to tell you that this is a built-in Godot function. So right there at the very front, that means it's already in Godot, and Mr. Eversole's not making this one up. He's not creating it himself. This particular function already exists in Godot, just like the ready function already exists. Okay, so we want to connect to this function that's already created. So we're going to come back here to the ready function, and we're going to connect it just like we did the other two. We'll say get tree. That's kind of like just, not ret tree, get tree. And that's kind of like saying go to the main part of my game, and I need you to connect something from the main part of my game. I want to know whenever somebody has connected. So I'm looking for network peer connected. Okay, so network peer connected, and we want to connect that to our self. So we'll say self, and then we want to connect it to the function that we have down here, which is player connected. Right there. So go to the main part of my game, connect the signal network peer connected to myself, player connected. And when I say the main part of my game, it's hard to, it's like the very beginning of the game. Like I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Once I show you guys like file structures and stuff, it'll make more sense. But other than that, it's just like the root of your game setup. Okay, so we are connecting network peer connected to this script at this function right here, player connected, and here it is. Now you'll notice that this function has an ID number, so whenever a new player connects, it's also going to tell us what their current ID number is. So it's like they're a unique name for them, so it's right there. Okay, so we need a place to store this name, this unique ID, so everybody can have access to it. So to finish this part of this function, we need to add another script. So come over here to scripts and right click and say new script. And I'm going to call this script the globals script. So that says globals, and I'm going to hit create. And since I right clicked on that folder, it's automatically creating the script in the correct folder for me. I'm going to double click this one, and here's our new script we have. And I need to give this some notes. At the top, this is the online series. So I'm going to say online, and these are my global variables. This particular script is going to be a singleton or a global script. So any script in my game will have access to this script when we finish setting this up. So right here we're going to say player to ID is equal to -1. And I need to make this a variable, so I'm going to say var. Okay. So this says player 2's ID is -1, and that just -1 is just going to start off meaning Nothing. No one's connected. Players ID. Okay, so this is player 2's unique ID. We're storing it on this page here. And let's make it where the other scripts can have access to it. So we're going to go to Project, Project Settings, and Auto Load. Alright, so Auto Load. Now we need to find the path to this script. So if you click this little folder here, you can go to your scripts and then Globals and click Open. Now these are the global, this is the path to that script we just made, and we're going to click Add. Now we have access to, now every script has access to that because it's a singleton, and I'm going to click Close. So we now have access to anything we put on this page on every single script. So let's go take a look back at our lobby here. Now we can finish storing this ID so everybody can have access to it. So I'm going to say globals dot ID, oh no, it's a player, there it is, player 2 ID is equal to this new ID number right here. So anytime somebody connects, when the other person connects, it's going to take that ID and it's going to store it into player 2's ID spot right there. All right, and I'm also going to print player connected. And then once we do that, so we've got the, so somebody joins, it tells us their ID, we store the ID. Let's say store player 2's ID. And then it prints out player connected. And now that we did this, now we want to actually go to the game. So imagine like when you first start this game, you hit play and you're at the lobby. You'll type it in. You'll type in the IP you want to do, and then you'll click join. And when you click join, this function's going to play. And then we want to pull up the new game, which is this world here. We want to pull up the world, and then we also want to hide this one. So we're at this screen. We click join. We want this one to go away, and then we want this one to start. So let's make that happen. So this should be pretty straightforward. So we want to hide. We want to bring up the new game. So we'll say get underscore tree. Get the main part of my game. Go to the root. Get root. And then we're going to do add child. Oops, I forgot one specific thing. We want to add the game scene, but we haven't made the game scene, so I skipped one ahead of one step. Let's get the game scene. So this one's going to keep giving me an error because it doesn't know what game is. So let's go ahead and get the game. So we'll say var game is equal to preload, and then we're going to, the game is that new world that I was talking to you about. Dot instance. Okay, so it's going to take this scene and load it into game, and then it's going to put it into the world. All right, so let's just say this loads the scene, and we could say this one starts the scene. And finally, we started the game. Now we need to hide the lobby. So we're just going to say self.hide. Hide the lobby. Okay. So just a quick recap. We made a network. Whenever you click when you click the join button, it creates a network. Then creates a client and configures it, and then it starts the network service. This one, whenever you click host, it's going to create a new network. Then we're going to configure the server so we know who to communicate with, maximum number of players in the port, and then it's going to start the service. Now, if you're hosting or you're joining, then the player connected thing should fire. Or actually, maybe only the host does it. I don't know. But anyway, the player connected fires, and it stores the new player's connection, their ID number. It says player connected, and then it loads our world scene, starts it up, and hides the lobby. Now, I can't really show you this being completed in this particular tutorial because I don't have it set up. But this is the code for our finished lobby here. And at the end of this, we should be in the world scene when we're trying to connect to another player. Alright, that's the end of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.